closely. Again, that's that special protocol assessment agreement that they have with them.
Can you give another example of that special protocol agreement and what fiduciary responsibilities that the FDA is governed to do in relation to that, sir?
Well, the FDA certainly has a responsibility for the safety of the American people. That's really the reason why it's there as a regulatory body. However, they're also obligated, not only fiduciary but socially, to get drugs that meet unmet medical needs to market when they fit the criteria of filling the criteria of safety concerns. And we saw in the AdCom panel that Human Genome Sciences passed in a 14-to-1 vote that the drug was safe to use, and then a 13-to-2 overall vote that the drug was very effective for what it has been designed for. Now, that designed clinical trial was part of the SPA, which was the Special Protocol Assessment Clinical Trials, which was entered into with the FDA, with the proviso that when those points were met positively, the FDA would approve the drug. Now, the FDA has that fiduciary and social obligation to get these drugs out to market to help the people that are suffering from these diseases. And Human Genome Sciences and Glaxo and the people who have been in the trials and the patients and the Lupus Society of America and the investors, and everyone has invested a lot of time and money and science and sweat and toil to make this come to market in a positive way. And the FDA is under that obligation to recognize that and act accordingly.
So what I'm hearing from you is that when Human Genome Sciences was going into this early on, they went into a kind of a special protocol with the FDA. And that during this particular last 3 clinical trials, they have met all of those milestones with passing colors. And of course, you know, nothing is perfect when it comes to working with people's bodies and things like this and this kinds of treatments. However, they did meet those sufficiently to get that 14-to-1 risk approval. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, they did. And that was an area that was specifically addressed. Because look, Human Genome Sciences will be the first one to come out and say that lupus is probably one of the hardest, and these immunological related diseases are one of the hardest treatments to come by, because it's not like a viral or a bacterial related illness where there's a single problem and a single key to fit the single lock and key. It's a series of symptoms, often very different amongst the patient groups, and very difficult to recognize. So they knew that with the history of what the symptoms are, how it reacts person to person, subgroup to subgroup, what the history of the failure has been over 50 years, that they were going to be they were going up against a headwind in trying to push Benlysta forward through the FDA. However, the science behind the drug and the efficacy behind the science and how it had been applied towards lupus has been so positive that they knew they had something on their hands that was a game changer. And they knew that in order to get this through, where all other applications for lupus treatments have failed, that they were going to have to go hand in hand with the FDA from the very beginning and design tests that the FDA knew would be recognizable and that there wouldn't be any misinterpretation or any ambiguity or doubt about what they were trying to find and what the result would be. And they have done it from the very beginning up until this point. Every single one of those aspects has been addressed and met.
Well, what I find very interesting is because of that dialogue of being an expert in their field and trying to make sure that they meet their responsibilities, then it sounds like a win-win situation for Human Genome. It sounds like a win-win situation for the FDA because they're part of such an overwhelmingly hard thing to treat, the disease itself. And the amount of time, 50 years, that's 5 decades of people who have suffered using steroids to try to treat this, as I understand. And that the treatment process needs to be here and now, should all of the facts work out and all the conclusions come out correctly, is that one of the primary elements is going to be that risk management label, and that there is different cultures in our population that suffer from the disease, and some of their immune systems and treatments may be different than others. Is that true? One of them being the Afro-American community, right?
That has been addressed, and those issues have been put to rest because the test was not designed to be specific to one racial or subgroup. It was designed to be a broad-based spectrum of the whole population in the United States of people that suffer from lupus. Yes, there is a proportionate amount of the community of African American women who do suffer from lupus more. However, the test was not designed to specifically address them because the test had to be designed in a way that appealed to all genetic, all diets, all subgroups, all geographical regions as broad-based as possible first to prove its efficacy. Then upon approval and conclusion of positive results, sub-tests could then and sub-trials could then be administered post-approval to go on to further areas of research. But until they got past the first stage, there was no way the FDA was going to allow them to administer individual tests on subgroups. You can't get to B without passing first A, and that's what Human Genome has been trying to say from the very get-go. Second of all, there wasn't enough of in the broad-based clinical trials, there wasn't enough data to support or deny the conclusion that it had any underperforming aspect or effect on any racial subgroup, be it African American, Asian, white, Hispanic, whatever, to draw those conclusions.
Right. So it was very broad based to meet every subculture environment.
That's right. And the talk, the retail talk that's been out that it didn't help this subgroup is inconclusive and circumstantial at best, and is not at any way enough grounds for the FDA or anyone to draw a solid conclusion basis for. And it was addressed in the AdCom panel, and as you may remember from some of our other videos, many of the people who testified that were in the group were African Americans, and some were even African American women.
Oh yes, there was, and their lives had been touched in a very positive way.
Yes, they have.
Yes. So basically then, when it comes down to such a overwhelmingly treatment process about to be ruled on March 10th of 2011, is it would be a major breakthrough in biotechnology, but most important is that the suffering aren't going to suffer as much.
That's right. I think a lot of the times the FDA tends to be the monster in the room, and for a lot of the times that's because they are so secretive in a way, notorious for being sticklers on seemingly insignificant points, waiting up to the last minute and denying things, postponing things, extending things, and being serious manipulators in the process. However, this is a situation where the FDA wins too, and it keeps this premier and revolutionary science and technology here in America, you know, and it keeps this FDA, you know, it's a feather in their hat as well to get this pushed through. And I know a lot of the times they tend to, you know, be, you know, kind of known for it, and that's probably deserved in many instances. And it just, we want to let it be known that this is a situation where the FDA tends to come out looking like the hero if they do the right thing as well.
I'm in total agreement with all of the analysis and everything that we have done on covering a company and what it's like for a biotech firm to have to go through a multi-year chain of command and regulatory hurdles because they do. This is why it takes a lot of years to get these treatments to the market. And once again, as long as they're not harming the people medically and everything supports it, then we feel good about this. So I'm going to conclude this video here as the coverage that we are seeing on a Sunday on February 27th right here. And SMF Pro Traders blogs has all the information that you're going to need. And not only that, there are so many other things here that you can just really enjoy joining this to make sure that the upcoming March 10th hearing is that we get immediate approval and that the last quarterly delay has suited everyone, and then we move on forward there with Human Genome Sciences.